So we have two questions. So each question will carry 25 marks, which cover chapter 1 up until part of chapter 3, up until association rule. I haven't created the question yet, so let's see how today. Two question only, subjective. There's no definition. Maybe I give you one scenario, and then based on the scenario, or maybe based on the raw data set, then you need to identify is there any problems with the data set, and how to handle the data set, how to handle the problems, or how to identify the problems in the data set and so on.
他想写的是 subjective 嘛，写的是 chapter 1到 chapter 3的那个 association。
50 marks.
哦
25 marks for question number 1, and then another 25 marks for the for question number 2. But somehow for question 1 also we have sub question. Sub maybe.
不要玩啊！呕吐。我跟你讲哦，这样子的时候我会有，我会很赶的意思。
I think last week we stopped somewhere.
他在学校有没有？应该是没有。学校看你的。
Here.
我的。
So this one is more to
我的号。
the use of data storage and also how we can manage big data. So literally what is big data? So big data is something that is related to data set that is extremely large. So for example, so the range for the big data is from terabytes to petabytes. So the example of big data is just like Facebook comments. So assuming that each of you post one Facebook any status. Okay. So if we multiply one status with the whole Malaysia citizens, so it will create huge data, or it will create big data. So we need to manage this kind of big data. So when it is related to big data, instead of considering how we are going to manage the big data, also we also need to consider what kind of storage that we need to store this kind of big data.
不要进来。
Okay, so this is the requirements that we need in order to store big data. So for example, so we have a few requirements here. So in terms of capacity, space, cost, scalability, reliability, and so on. So for example, if you are talking about the capacity, so what is capacity? So capacity actually it refers to the amount of data that you can store in a storage system. So so literally when you are handling big data, so you need or you must have the capacity that you can handle those kind of large volumes of data which is generated by different sources. So just now I mentioned that big data you can it can appear in the form of Facebook comments or maybe YouTube videos or your TikTok videos and so on. Okay, so we need to make sure that you have a big data storage actually. Okay, and then in terms of performance, so performance actually it refers to the ability of your storage system to deliver the data efficiently. Okay, so either it is can perform or not. Okay, so for example, so if your storage or big data storage is efficient, so it must be able to process the data, and it also must be able to retrieve the operations. So for example, if you want to delete your status or you want to add or edit your videos, for example, so it must be, so in terms of data storage, your data storage must be good in order to deliver the performance lah. And then the next part is in terms of speed. So speed is referring to the rate, okay, in which your data can be accessed and in which your data can be transferred within the storage system. Okay, so for example, if you are dealing with real time or if you are dealing with real time processing, so you need to make sure that your data storage will have this feature. Okay, and then the next requirements for big data storage is increasing unstructured data. Okay, so actually if you are dealing with big data and then when you want to handle those big data, it is not as easy as you are handling it by using traditional storage. Okay, so you need to so your data storage must be able to receive or must be able to accommodate diverse data types. So for example, it must be able to receive the text data, videos, audios, and so on. Okay, and then in terms of volume, so volume is referred to the quantity of your data, and it also refers to the size of your data. Okay, so in order to create or in order to select the best big data storage, so you must consider in terms of volume also. Okay, and then the next criteria for your big data storage is in terms of throughput. So actually throughput is refer to the amount of data that you can process, or it can also refer to the amount of data that you can transfer of a given time lah. Okay, and then another criteria for your big data storage is access time and also data transfer rate. So data transfer rate here is actually, it refers to the time it takes to access and also to transfer data. Okay, so you need to make sure that your storage here will have least number of transfer time. Okay, and then next we have scalability. Okay, scalability is referred to the ability of your storage system to handle if there is increasing data loads in your network lah. And then we also need to measure in terms of reliability. So reliability is referring to how reliable your data is. Okay, and then we have challenges in big data storage. So for example, okay, let's say if we're talking about medium storage. Okay, so medium storage is just like your hard disk drive or your SSD. Okay, so previous storage that your system, that previous laptop or CPU they use HDD. Okay, so but somehow HDD will tend to overheat, and also it quite large lah compared to the size compared to SSD. So nowadays most of the computer and also laptop they use SSD. So SSD is more reliable, so it does not have much magnetic force, but somehow the price is quite expensive, and also it has smaller in size lah compared to HDD. So HDD, I'm not sure whether you have experience of using HDD or not, but somehow when you overrun your data or you beat the CPU performance, right? So HDD tend to to fault lah, okay, to create magnetic faults. Okay, and then you need to format again and again. Okay, and then so this is the comparison of medium storage. So for example, so for the medium storage medium, so we have magnetic storage, optical storage, solid state, and also the hybrid storage. So this is the capacity. So for the magnetic storage, it is up until 6 terabyte. Okay, so if you have large data set, so you can focus on magnetic storage and also the hybrid storage. Okay, and then we have access time. If you get here, optical storage, it has slow access time. Okay, if it's slow, if you are using this optical storage, then your computer will run slow. Okay, and then in terms of cost, so less expensive compared to solid state. Okay, and then in terms of data transfer, so if you want to select or if you want to get the transfer rate, the higher transfer rate, so you can focus on the solid state and also the hybrid storage. Okay, so this is the 1, 2, 3, 4 criteria that you need to consider before you choose your storage medium.
不是班上的人都 OK， 那老师发进去了。你们这有上 OK。
Okay, and then so we have another architecture to store the big data. So for example, instead of storing your data in your local drive, so you can also use cloud service. Okay, so for example, I'm sure that you already use one of these, at least one of these providers. So for example, if you want to store your data or your Excel file or your any document, so you can use your drive, or if you want to store your images or videos, you can use Dropbox and so on. Okay, instead of using the free version of your cloud provider, so you can also rent a storage space. Maybe you can pay a certain amount, maybe a small amount, and so on. Okay, and then we also have NAS, which is network attached storage. So NAS actually is designed for file sharing. Okay, so for example, if you want to share files within computer from computer A, computer B, and computer C, for example, in one network, so you can use NAS actually. Okay, and then we also have IP SAN. So IP SAN also actually is one of the platform. So where it involves thousands of computers. Okay, so these thousands of computers connected to each other, and then it share a large amount of storage devices. Okay, and then the last one we have object-based storage. So object-based storage is something that is related to collection of bytes on storage device. So for example, if you want to use this object-based storage, so you can use it for accessing data, and also instead of accessing data, so you can also it also has a security policy, so that it will help you to prevent any unauthorized access. So in this case, instead of using your local drive, so you can also use cloud providers. So you can use NAS, you can use IP SAN, and also you can use object-based storage.
1周年他送3抽了，那个原生
送
3抽给我骂到臭头。那时
有
周年庆祝的还是
是过年的时候那段时间。
但是原生送3抽是什么？都交换球衣。周年庆送3抽，隔壁是他的10倍，给人家没来骂来酸。喂，传教啊
Ready Dick Action Ready Dick 这个好像是
So chapter 3, so we have a visualization and also description analytics. So this is the outline for your chapter 3 with visualization in data analytics, descriptive analytics and so on. So but somehow for today's session we only cover up until association
真的
group.
是哦，这个我才发，我这个多久之前就印好了。但是那个如果我这个3个5没有包的。
这好像是这个一到
到2，就是之前的我看。
你可以
1跟2吧，
没有，
1到后面
它有2个角色没有。他很早之前发嘛，那个1、2、4、6，
还有金色，
哦，那个是换来免费。
然后3、4、6。
我那时候不想带那么多纸啊，我就
Okay, so under data visualization, there are 2 basic concepts. So what is data visualization actually? So what is data
没
visualization?
有，
Jala?
他昨天才发的，
他好像选
我已经印了。
Kakek?
高级吗？
Excel lah? Excel lah?
不会，我
Excel
记讲完了。
So later we check. Okay, so literally, data visualization is, for example, let's say you have a data set. Maybe you download the data set from any repositories, or you collect the data set from the field by creating surveys or questioning. So data visualization is referring to, for example, like in your data set, from your data set, you want to turn your data set into pictures, or you want to turn your data set into visuals, like using graphs or using charts. Okay, so why do we need to turn our data into graphs or charts? Because we want to make sure, or we want to help the audience to understand the information better. So instead of providing the table for the audience, so normally as a human being, so we can understand information better if we are using visualization from your graphs or from your charts. Okay, so instead of just looking at a bunch of numbers that you can retrieve from your data set, so if you are using graphs or charts, so you can see or you can identify the trends, the patterns, and also the relationship more easily through pictures actually. Okay, so what do we need to tell the audience? So there are 2 basic charts here. So for example, if you're talking about the exploration, okay, so let's say you have a data set about a test score of your data science classmates, okay, and then you already and then the test score is already organized nicely in table form, okay, and then you can use data visualization. Okay, so you can use data visualization. Maybe you can use bar graph to compare the score between different students to track and maybe how score changes over time. Okay, so you can use bar graph. Okay, and then in terms of explanation, so explanation is focusing on sharing what you found with others. So for example, so after you have exploring the data, so maybe you want to explain your findings to others. Okay, so you can create a presentation to show the trends or to show the patterns. So for example, by using your histogram or your bar chart of 100, let's say 200 data science students, so you can see which students or which class actually perform better compared to others.
Okay.
Okay, and then this is the example. So this example, I retrieved these records from this URL. So I want to ask you, what is the best data visualization
我觉得
technique,
黄圈可以叠出。
data visualization that you can use to plot this data set?
一回
To plot this record?
出打倒都不是问题，叠出。
你要有够多那个 debug，暂时应该未来会出更多那种角色，但是不多了，会很恶心啊，大招一直炸。
这样痛，
Abel, Abel able ha.
你蛮明显的，
Ah,
你的啥料？
the best data visualization that you can use to
满意是
represent
心比
these
零，
uh,
懒
records.
觉是懒觉比你要强，
走不出来。
因为请太懒觉了。
这个是哦，那时候我那个最后一个难度我就走不了，硬硬的不能走。
Histogram,
遇到时候
not very suitable because if you see here, we want to know the growth rate percentage. Okay, growth rate percentage. So it is advisable for us to use line graph because we want to track how the growth rate change over time.
宁可有花的，
Okay, so it's starts from 2000, July 2004 until July 2003. So we want
摩
to
擦产品。
track changes over time. So use line graph.
不会学的，我觉得会。我没有开忘了。有句我们是没有。
Okay, so before we choose the appropriate data visualization that might suit for our data set, there are few things that we need to consider. So for example, so what information does the reader need from the data visualization? Okay, so for example, so are they looking for any specific insights or trend or comparison? Okay, so if they are looking for the trends, for example, so you can use line chart to identify the trends. If they are looking for comparison, so you can use bar chart.
可以去玩看的是不错。我好像这里全部人都玩，除了他没有玩，他玩一点，他最近才玩。他有玩，我有玩，他有玩。
Okay, and then the second one is in terms of a level of detail.
不错啊。
Okay, so for example, so you need to consider how much detail your reader or your audience requires to understand the data effectively. So for example,
你有那个 Kafka，
in your graph or in your picture or in your chart, so you need to avoid unnecessary complexity. So for example, just now I mentioned that if you want to identify the comparison, okay, so do not use a line graph. So line graph normally associated with trends. So if you give too much detail for your audience or your reader, at the end it still cannot convey the message accurately. Okay, and then the third one is you need to identify or you need to determine what action your reader can take based on the information presented in the data visualization. Okay, so for example, so you can provide clear recommendation or you can provide suggestion so that it will help the user to make an informed decision. Okay, and then the fourth one is what values lead action. Okay, so for example, so you need to identify is there any values or is there any metrics in the data set that require more attention. Okay, so for example, if you want to identify the skewness of the data, or if you want to identify the distribution of the data, so you can use what? Histogram together with your bell-shaped curve. Okay, so by referring to bell-shaped curve, so you can identify whether your data set has the properties of right skewness or left skewness.
是不是我？我的是6彩。
Okay, and then the next part is you also need to consider is there any cultural assumption. Okay, so for example, let's say certain colors or symbols. Okay, so colors and symbols might give or might have different meanings in different cultures. So this be aware. Okay, and then also you need to consider other reasons so that may affect the design choice. So for example, in terms, so you need to consider factors like color blindness, or maybe the readers might have language barriers. So this kind of color blindness, language barrier, and also visual impairment, so it will affect the readability and also it will affect the interpretation of your data visualization. So you need to make sure that the data visualization that you need or your design is accessible to a diverse audience. Okay, and then here we have common data visualization issues. So for example, so the first one is about the inappropriate data choices. So for example, so if you're using different type of data visualization, so just now mentioned that if you want to measure the trends, but somehow instead of using a line chart, so you use pie chart. So if you want to identify the trends using pie chart, it will lead to confusion and also misleading information. Okay, and then the second one is variety for the sake of variety. So what is this? Okay, so for example, so in your graphs, in your features, in your figures or in your pictures, you combine or you include a lot of different types of charts, or you include a lot of different types of visual elements, because you want to maybe you want to add marks and so on, or maybe you think that it's colorful and so on, so cannot lah. So you cannot add too many types of graphs. For example, in one whole picture you include bar graph, pie chart lah, line chart lah and so on, cannot. Okay, and then the third one is too much information. Okay, so for example, so in order to represent or in order to present the age population, so instead of providing bar chart, so you also provide another graph. For example, you provide bubble chart, you provide the vertical bar graph and so on. Okay, and then the next issue is poorly designed display choices. So this one is related to the you choose wrong colors, fonts, and also layout. So different combinations of colors, layout, and also font. So it will hinder the readability of your data visualization. So you must use standard color lah. So for example, like for your bar graphs, you cannot use tone color lah. This use one color only. Cannot use tone. So let's say you want cannot use tone. Cannot use gradient color. Okay, and then for the next issue, so this one is related to encoding quantitative data inaccurately. So for example, like you want to
你用抖音吗？
represent the quantitative data, but somehow you use
等下我关掉声音。
inappropriate scaling. Okay, so for example, you want to display the category or the class, but somehow you use floating number.
你懂
Okay, and then the next issue is related to inconsistencies in the ordering and also the
没
placement.
有办法，我要
So for example, let's say you have your data set, you have around maybe 1,000 number of records, and then you have 15 columns. Okay, and then you switch the position. So your column, it becomes your row, and then row becomes column.
超市
Okay, so the placement of your features
抽专五，
and number of records is you switch it.
我要抽专五，翅膀定贵。
Okay, and then the next issue is related to using inconsistent or reverse scale.
200公，
Okay,
然后都20
so
抽。
reverse scale is negative lah. Okay, and then the next one is related to proportional axis scaling. So for example, okay, let's say if you want to
反令
measure height and weight, for example. So instead of using, for example, like you want to measure the,
所以他们给他钱，但是他把它做成
okay, so you have 5 data set. Okay, data set 1, so you use cm to identify the height. So data set 2, you use meter. So cannot lah. So you must use the same SI unit. Okay, and then the next one is related to using count versus percentage. Okay, so for example, so you have two figure, okay, and figure A and figure B. Okay, so figure A, let's say you want to calculate the frequency by using total number count, but somehow figure B you want to use percentage. So it is incomparable lah. So you compare if the count versus percentage.
要关卡，要做球给他手环。
Okay, and then this is the example of your graphs that you can use. So first thing is you need to consider these 4 criteria. So we have relationship, comparison, distribution, and also composition. Okay, let's say if you are talking about relationship, okay, let's say if you want to measure the relationship between 2 variables, so you can use scatter plot or scatter chart. So for example, so this variable is between variable average daily temperature measured in Fahrenheit versus visitor. So if you look at here, we have data point, which is represented by marker on this
我
chart.
昨天打第七车的，
So based on this scatter plot, so you can observe, so what is the patterns, what is the trends, and also the correlation between 2 variables here.
把那个奖赏清楚。
Okay, and then also if you want to measure the relationship between 3 or more variables, 3 variables, so you can use bubble chart. So in this bubble chart, it extend the concept of scatter chart. So but somehow it involves 3 variables. So for example, so we have
4比4，
axis x. So axis x is referring to the
而且你
literacy fraction versus life expectancy for the y-axis, and then for population here. So population here is represented by the bubble size actually, the size of your bubble here. Okay, so you can use scatter plot and you can use bubble chart to identify the trends, or you can use it to identify the correlation within your features or your variables in your data set.
哦，是哦，这个是报上，是报报
Okay, and then if you're talking about distribution, so we have a lot of graphs that you can use to represent the distribution. If you are focusing on single features or single variables, if your data point is small, means you have few data points, so you can use column histogram. Okay. But somehow, if you have many data points, or if your data points is larger, so you can use line histogram, or you can even use this one you jot down, so you can even use density plot.
所以我写图也是被人教起的，但是他们没有写在我部分。
Okay, so we go back to the column histogram. So column histogram. So if you click here, so we have bar here. So the blue color one is actually bar, or we call it as bin. So each pin or bar will represent a category or a range of values. Okay, and then the height of the bar here actually it indicates the frequency.
叫电机什么？电机，聪明又明想。
Okay, and then if it involves two variables, to display the distribution, so you can use scatter plot. And also, if you have three variables, you can use 3D area chart. So 3D area chart actually it represents three variables. Okay, so two variables for the x-axis and y-axis, and another one variable sometimes it represented by the height of this area and also the depth of this area. Height here or the depth.
就是整路。我在考虑这个 association rule，其实好像抽离。
Okay, and then if you want to compare between your variables or your features, okay, so let's say if it involves two variables per item, so you can use variable with column chart. So the width here, so the width here will represent one variable. And the height here is width, one variable, and then another variable is this one. So it is referring to the size lah. So the taller one is referred to one variable. Let's say we have variable A, one variable here, and then another variable. Let's say we name the variable as B. So this one is referring to the variable B. Okay, in terms of size lah. Okay, and then, so if you want to compare one variable per item, so there are two subparts. If it involves many categories, so you can use table, and also in your table, also you can embed the table with your chart. Okay, so for example, for the chart, so you can embed bar chart. Or any chart like pie chart, line graph and so on. Okay, and then under one variable per items, we have few categories. So under few categories, if you have many items or many categories to compare, so you can use horizontal bar chart. Or if you have few items, so you can use column chart here. And then, in terms of comparison over time, so we have many periods and also few periods. So if you're talking about many periods, so we can divide the time duration to cyclical data and also non-cyclical data. So for example, if you're talking about cyclical data, so let's say it involves something that is related to seasonal trends. So for example, you have a data set about retail sales within specific festive season. Okay, so cyclical data always related to the rise and fall of the patterns which is related to economy. Okay, for certain season, for example, in Christmas season, so the retail sales tend to be higher. When it is off season, it tends to be lower and so on. So it is related to economy. So that one is falls under cyclical data. Okay, so if you want to display or if you want to compare your cyclical data, so you can use a circular area chart. Okay, so for example, here we have a segment. So each segment of this circle will represent a period here. So for example, let's say you want to measure the retails for January up until December 2023. So each area here is each circular area here will represent each month. And then we have non-cyclical data. So for example, let's say if you want to identify the trends, so you can use line chart. Okay, and then for a few periods, so we have another two subparts. So the first one is related to single or few categories. So let's say if you want to compare single or few categories, so you can use column chart. But somehow if it is involve many categories to compare over a period of time, so you can use line chart. So for example, let's say you have a data set for changes of US dollar, euro and so on. So you can use line chart. Okay, and then we have composition, so changing over time, so we can divide it into few periods and also many periods. So if it involves only relative difference method, so you can use stack 100% column chart. Okay, and then if both relative and absolute difference method, so you can use stack column chart. But somehow in terms of many periods, and then if you are focusing on only relative different methods, so you can also use stack 100% error charts. But somehow for the relative and absolute different methods, you can choose stack area chart. But somehow it depends, either the choice between the stack and also the stack 100% column chart. Actually, it depends on what is your aim and what kind of time periods that you want to compare. If you're focusing on the category proportions and also if you're focusing on the magnitude, so you can choose stack column chart and so on. Okay, and then the next part is we have descriptive analytics. So I think so descriptive analytics is so this one also related to your data. Okay, we have data and then we need to analyze our data. So descriptive it comes from the word descriptions. So that means you have your data and then you want to describe your data. So how to describe your data? For example, like if you provide statistical summary or you provide the interpretation of your data set. So that one is under descriptive analytics. Okay, so for the descriptive analytics, you can measure or you can get the summary by using statistical measure. Okay, so for example, if you want to measure the central tendency or average, so you can use mean, median, and also you can use mode. So what does it mean by mean, median, and mode? So mean actually is the average lah. Okay, so the arithmetic average of a set of values. So for example, if we have 10 numbers, okay, or if we have 10 values, and then you just summing all of your 10 values, and then you can divide it into the total number. 10 different values divided by total number. So there is mean lah, arithmetic average. And then also we have median. So median is the middle values. So let's say you have 10 values, and then before you get the median or the middle values, you need to sort your data set, or you need to sort your values first before you get the median. And then mode here is referred to the frequency.
那个 East Campus 那个树林那里是有被布置，这个那一 shot 都是在打对的。
Okay, and then if you want to measure the dispersion of your data set, so you can use range. So range, first thing is we need to identify the minimum values and also the maximum value in your data set. So range is between the difference between minimum and maximum. Okay, and then we have variance. So variance is one type of measure so that you can use to identify the average square deviation of your each data point from your mean. Okay, and then we have standard deviation. So deviation is the square root of your variance. Okay, and then next you can measure the relative position. So you can use z-score. Standard score is a z-score, or you can even use percentile range. Okay, and also you can use percentile score. So like first quarter, quarter 1, quarter 2, median, quarter 2, and so on. Okay, and then the next one is if you want to measure the relationship, so you can use correlation coefficient. Okay, so literally correlation coefficient is one type of measure that you can use to identify the strength or the direction of linear relationship between two variables. So normally for the correlation coefficient, so the range is between -1 to +1. Okay, so if your correlation value is nearer to -1, so that means it indicates a perfect negative correlation. If it is nearer to +1, means positive correlation. We have -1, negative correlation, +1, positive correlation, and 0 indicates no correlation. No correlation or no relationship. Negative, 0, and positive.
快点停！哦，
这是延期。
眼睛很屌哦，眼睛恶命哦。
Okay. So I think this one you already learn in your statistic, right? Positive, negative, and no correlation. Okay, and then next we have descriptive analytics. So descriptive analytics
我看一下子
it
报，
also referring to your data set, and then you want to describe your data set. So why do we need to describe our data set? So because we want to gain insight, and also we want to understand is there any patterns in our data set. Okay, so this is descriptive. Descriptive, it comes from the word description. You want to describe your data set. So you can identify the patterns or you can identify the behavior of your data set. So for example, so you work as a marketing analyst or a data analyst or data scientist of a company lah. One company, one e-commerce company, and then you want to analyze the sales data. Okay, so that you can understand the customer purchasing behavior. So after you have collect the historical sales data, so for example, like you already collect the customer informations like customer demographic, like name, age, address, and so on. And also you gather the information that is related to the product purchased by the customer, purchase date, and also purchase amount, and so on. So you can start your data exploration. So which means you can start exploring or you can start identifying the patterns and also the trends of the customer sales actually. Okay. So why do we need to explore the data? So because we want to understand the patterns and to get insight here.
拍老梅那个爆破，被直播对空。
没有，那时候因为他老梅跟
就不用证明。
我的公司给那个学医用，但是我拿来换掉，我拿学医的跟这个换掉，因为学医的是。
Okay, and then under descriptive analytics, we have three types. So the first one is association rule. Second one is sequence rule and also segmentation. So today we cover up under association rule only. So association rule is a rule. So a rule that we use to identify the relationship, and also we want to identify the dependencies between variables. So if you are talking about association rules, means we want to identify the pattern of certain event or item that might tend to occur together. So for example, so we have few applications of association rule. So for example, so the first one is market basket analysis. So for example, so you can identify the products frequently purchased together to optimize sales strategy. So if you look at any supermarket, so when you are about to pay to the counter, so there is few shelves, so they put items nearer to the counter, to the payment counter. So how they identify which products to be put in the nearer shelf to the counter is by analyzing using market basket analysis. Okay, and then for the second application of association rule, it is related to customer behavior analysis. Okay, so for this one, let's say you are a business owner, okay, and then you can implement this customer behavior analysis so that at the end you can identify what is the best strategies or what is the best marketing strategies to enhance your to boost up the sales lah. Okay, and then you can also apply association rule in healthcare industry. So for example, let's say you can use association rule to identify is there any risk factor, or maybe you can predict what is the patient outcomes, or maybe you can use association rule to improve the treatment effectiveness. Okay, and then the fourth application is web usage mining. So for example, you want to identify the website clickstream, okay, so that you can gain insight about the user behavior. And let's say if you want to enhance the user experience, so you can also use association rule. Okay, and then the next one is social network analysis. Okay, so let's say if you want to identify influential factors in social media, for example, so you can use association rule. Okay, so just now I mentioned that association rule is for us to identify the relationship and also the dependencies between variables. So how we want to measure the relationship or the dependencies is by identifying the patterns of certain events. So in this example, we want to identify the patterns of purchasing products. So assuming that we have 10 customers, and then so this is the records for each customer. Okay, so if you want to measure the purchasing behavior of the customer, so first thing is you need to know that we have two variables here, which is X is referred to the antecedent, and then Y here is referred to the consequence. Okay, so for example, so we want to identify, let's say if customer buy milk, so in this case milk is referring to the X. Okay, then is it possible for the customer to buy bread as well? So we want to identify the relationship between this one. So how many percentage that customer that buy milk will also buy bread together? So business or maybe a supermarket, so they use association rule so that they can optimize their sales. Maybe they want to top up their inventory, or if they want to create promotions based on certain products, so maybe they want to create promotion milk plus bread. So first thing is they need to identify the association between milk and bread first. So this is one way of how they can evaluate the relationship between two items based on customer purchasing behavior. Formula. Okay, so when we're talking about association rules, so we have support and also confidence. So both metrics, you can use it to identify or to measure the strength of an association rule in your data mining. Okay, So support here is we measure the frequency of an item set. Okay, so for example, so item set means okay, so one item is what we call as item lah. So item set is the combination of at least 2 items. So this one is item set. One item lah. So more than one item is what we call as item set. So in this case we have one.
顾客你没有抽到。
Okay, let's say for customer 1, how many item set that we have? Milk, bread,
问题不大。
milk, butter, milk, bread, butter, and also butter bread. So we have 4 item set for customer 1. Okay, the combination of 2 or more items is what we call as item set.
那天我找到一个2米，我自己是很少看到的。这2米里面有没有什么？你 auto 它有不？就是 auto 网不好。
Okay, so we have support and also confidence. So let's check for the support first. So support is a measure of how frequently an item set appear in our data set. So this is the formula. So frequency of X, Y, and then we divide by the total number of transaction. Okay, so for example, support. So for example, let's say we have 1,000 number of transaction. Okay. So the formula is, so X, okay, let's say we want to identify the relationship, or we want to calculate the proportion of transaction for the item set of milk and bread. So in which the customer who buy milk, so he or she also tend to buy bread together. Means he buy both items lah. So based on this transaction, so we need to calculate the frequency. Okay, so that one is under support. So support milk to bread, or sometimes we also write it as
可以抽是抽。
我拿一个不要把它吃。把这个是公主，我了解了。你看每个反正还好吧。
milk and bread total number of supported. So assuming that we have 150, and then we divide of 50 support milk and bread. So we divide it by 1,000. So 1,000 is referred to the number of transaction. Okay, and then for the confidence, X to Y, or milk to bread. So this is the formula. So support XY, and we divide it by support X. So X here is referring to milk. Okay, so assuming that for the support X and Y, so we have 105 transaction, and then we need to divide it with support of milk. So you can present your confidence value in terms of floating number or percentage.
它装不是这样，这个可能。
那还没有，那奇怪吗？我这个不是。
Okay. Okay, and then another one we have leaf values. So leaf here is referred to the interestingness measure. So for example, so this is the formula. Okay, and then if the leaf value is more than 1, so that means we have positive dependence, or that means customer who buy milk, they also tend to buy bread together. Positive if the value is more than 1. If the value is less than 1, so that means it has negative dependence. So that means customer who bought milk, they not prefer to buy bread together. Okay, so we try one by one. Okay, let's say you want to identify the relationship between milk and diapers lah.
这算吗？
Milk and diapers. Okay, so what is the relationship between milk and diapers? So first is you need to calculate the support of milk, diapers.
这么憋的。
So how to calculate the support is you need to calculate. So make, let's say this one is x, this one is y. So x mu y divided by total number of transaction. Okay, so for example, so we have 5 transaction here. Okay, and then the combination of milk and diapers, we have 1 transaction. This one no. One yeah. Milk diapers 2. So 2 over 5. Okay, x union y and divided by total number of transaction. Where to write confidence? Here lah. So confidence of milk and diapers. So the formula is a bit different. So support x support of milk and diapers divided by support x. So in this case, x refer to milk. Okay, so for example, so just now we get the value of 2 over 5 and then divide by support x. So support x here is refer to the number of occurrence of x in our data set, in our transaction. So we check for the milk. 1, 2, 2, 2, sure 2. 2. Check ah. Total number
12加1都没了，60就是一个多。我那个整理，
So what is the value?
12加 跟你散出的东西
懂了。
会加入这个
205 lah. 2, 1, 2 for the milk. 205. So what is the value?
有点烂了。
中就完蛋。
Support the formula is divided by total number of transactions. So in this case, for you to find the support X, okay, support milk only. So we need to find how many transactions that contains milk. So in this case, we have 2 transactions, 2/5 transactions.
六命给他电到的。
So 2/5, and then the answer is 1. Okay, and then for another one is we want to identify either the customer tend to buy milk and diapers together or not. So we need to calculate the lead values. So what is the formula? Okay, support X union Y divided by support X multiply with support Y.
$26，这个是迷我不了，这个要自己买。
Okay, support X mu Y is 2/5, and then support X is 1 multiplied with support Y. Support Y is referring to diapers, the occurrence of diapers in the total transaction. So in this case, diapers we have 1, 2, 3, 4. 4/5. So what is the answer?
减到20，我这里买啊，
这个公司是吧？
Support
他好了，
support X support X sorry
他刚讲他没有。
2/5.
6题
他们讲他那个考试题目没有弄。
啊，还没有弄好。
Support X is 2/5.
没想到就会
上完课就可以睡了。
你可以是有50多号。面多少头？70几个吧。这要存着？存了。你不要抽着。他
出了就完蛋了，出了就完蛋了，这账号3个不出说难。
中了
Is
到
the answer?
不要。
5? Huh? So is the answer?
他的号40多抽哦，那个有4张装票。
1 point? 2/5. So just now, so we refer to this circumstances for the lead value here. Okay, right? So if the value is of your leaf is more than 1, so that means it has positive dependencies or positive relationship. So when we talk about positive relationship means, so the customer who buy milk, so he also tend to buy diapers together. If it is less than 1, customer who buy milk, so they are not tend to buy diapers together. So we want to identify this one. 1.25.
在这个中。
Okay, and another example. So this one, I'm not sure which midterm or final. So you need to calculate the support, confidence, and leave for association rule, milk, and butter, bread and butter. So that means the customer who buy milk, so they tend to buy bread and butter together. So for the support,
我跟Y 就是
Jim 是在哪里？也是 spot 对
the transaction of
抽到
Y
我
and
楼上
X and Y, and also number
就会
of
掉了嘛，
transaction.
拍到没有拍到就拍到诶。
哪个？这个
So we check the combination of milk, the occurrence of milk, bread and butter appear together in every single transaction.
少吗？
So milk, bread,
那比较慢。我天，我不这样慢。
他那边小，
so one,
哦，
milk, bread,
不
butter,
像那样子。
one, milk, bread, the sequence doesn't matter, milk, bread, butter, one, milk, bread, butter, milk, butter, bread, okay, only.
我慢点才发你哦，因为他要先接电话才给谁。
So 2/7.
刚才那里拍的。
So because the question asks you to round up to 3 decimal points, so maybe it's around 0.2.
我约他写个东西，要不然
讲要那个涨，
It's 6 ah.
他帮我拍。他喜欢哪？拍到。
Okay, and then for the confidence, what is the formula?
就因为这个有心脏病啊，有一点点，还好验出来了，也好像肺炎。
The frequency of or the occurrence of X and
抽
Y
一下，你真是很厉害。
okay, divided
太
by
过你很熟悉了，话题讲。
support.
可是他抽黄圈，其实他那个弧是有点用最少，可怜。
我抽金牛，
哦，我觉得黄圈兜着，
2 over
你黄
7
圈要绑定两个虚，
divided by support X.
Ability
So we need to check.
比如 Pera ，Sempo 啊，Kafka Black Swan， 没有，可是没有人用 Kafka 的用 Pera。
Support X or in this case support milk. Support milk 1, 2,
哎呀，这万用，万用。
4 over 7. So we will get
是不是这样？
so where's the answer? 0.5.
你我爱。
0, 0. 1 maybe lah. Okay, and then you want to calculate the leaf value.
XUY 是这个，它上面讲的 rules 嘛，milk bread butter 就你要找有 milk bread butter milk bread butter 只有两个吧
Yeah.
就2%了。和下面那个是4%是 milk，它的 rules 上面有4个4%，7是从7。
Where's the final answer?
那这里下面给 rules。
500?
这个什么？
000.
就是它的 rules 啊，这个上面的话是 XUY 嘛，下面是3个。
Where's the final answer in 3 decimal point?
就这个有9个，3个跟4个。
Zero
1、2、3、4，就4%。
Huh? Oh, 0. Another 0 ah? 1? This one? Zero point 500. Yes. Okay. Okay, and then for the leaf value. So bread butter. What is the formula? Check ah. Support XY. So support X, Y.
我觉得黄权太多。
So 2/7 divided by support
配
X.
头精华怎么算起来？
X is milk. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4/7 times bread and butter. 1, 2, 3,
掉第一决策
哦
是统活动。
Okay, so it only calculate how many transaction. But somehow if you look at here, for transaction 7, we have repeated butter here. It doesn't count. Okay, it only measure the transaction is available or not in this part.
这个比这个我长。
1, 2,
它
3,
上面的
4.
rule 是milk，然后一个箭
So
头
what
是
is the
bread
answer?
butter 嘛，这个是 x， 这个是
黄
y
金跟水素
它箭头是分开哦，就这个
黄金
应该是打逗号，
1.875.
奶错，要出去。
0.875.
用过量啊，流水月。
So because the lead value is less than 1, so that means so customer who buy milk, so they are not buying bread and milk together.
哦，都能行吗？
If the value is more than 1, so this is more than 1, positive dependence. Customer who bought item X, they tend to buy item Y together. If it less than 1, so it is negative dependence. Or there's no relationship.
就光跟水。
哦，拍到啊。
这个是刚才的。
哦，这个你应该更快点。
OK，下个。
应该没有。
生气啊！生气就对了。死傻我。
就是真的。啊？这个是下面的
最喜欢看你生气了。这个是
沉浸在自己的世界。
Okay, so Mr. Avanti Association Rule.
不，你教你自己抄，谈判你自己在讲。一个是力，为什么力一放这一排是少？
第二个是 confidence，然后第三个
力，对嘛？support confidence 才有。
confidence 还立法，
顺光汉，有没错？
给不要，做了给不要。
他又给啊，是诶，给亏税。看起来像是差不多。
开着卡数一定是给了。
白板，他是白板写啊，
看着我妈那。
应该是哦，2页吧，我在写。我看到是2页吧。
就3个 formula。
中5个3个。没有，它有3个 formula， 它2题啊，说你啊。
生气对了。
不要啦，每天这样。该在晚上讲话，你会。
就像很生气的样子，太可爱了。
哦，没有，他随便
你有了全部啊。
是。万开这个。
什么寿喜烧？检查。
冲茶 ，Oh my god！
Okay, so we have 4 questions for your task 1. So the first one is you need to list down 3 examples of big data. So your friend here and you already provide 3 examples. So for example, Facebook. So maybe you can be specific lah. Facebook comment or Internet of Things. TING, not thing. TING. And also Instagram here you can be more specific like Instagram image. So we check
Hmm?
is there any other samples.
Quiz 1 chapter 1 task 1有教，你没教？这个不是上课做呗？
So unstructured data, semi-structured and structured, this one is incorrect lah.
เพราะว่ามันนานคือมัน
随机抽查那种。
哦，其实啊
这种第一个啦，第一个星期上课的，
也是的嘛，那就
Okay, and then for the second question, so you need to give 2 examples.
第一堂课做的。
So of structured and unstructured data. So for example, structured data is Excel or your Notepad file or your XML file also can. And then for the unstructured data is the data that has not been processed yet. So audio and also videos is the example of unstructured data.
哦，顺序随便让你唱，我唱你唱。
Okay, and then question number 3. So we have one question here about the KFC plan to implement a new marketing campaign. Okay, so this is the promotion. So how can KFC tailor its marketing strategy and also promote tactics to reach
什么运动？
the best and also appeal to its target audience? So this one is open-ended question.
什么运动学？
So you can use response modeling. So for example, the KFC marketing team, so they can collect demographic data of customers. So for example, the customer informations, their age, their preference, their gender, and so on. And then they can classify the demographic data accordingly. So for example, so they can analyze either which range of age tend to visit KFC maybe in a certain time, for example. So for example, like once they have identified the customer demographic, so they found out that most of their customer is family with at least 2 children. So they can tailor and they can start create promotions and advertise the promotion focused on family that has more than 2 children. Okay, and then for question number 4, so you need so how can social media analytics on TikTok businesses can improve their marketing strategies? Okay, so I think this one is your era lah, TikTok era. Okay, so you can start identifying the trend content. So by identifying the hashtag and also the trending, okay, so it can help business, maybe SME or other big companies. They can identify the content normally by using hashtag and also the audios lah. Step now. What? Quiz 1.
好像是超。我玩眼神，他有听到声音？我耳机。以后很。
Okay, so question number 1 is you need to list out 5 software tools you can use in data analytics. So Python is incorrect. So Python is the programming language. So you need to provide the software tools, the name of the software. Python is a programming language, not the software. So what? Anaconda. Jupyter lah, Jupyter notebook. R. R is the programming language, right? Or it is the software. Programming language. What is the software that use R language?
跟农民一样的，
RMM, student.
还蛮急哦。
Python R is referring to the
以前没见的东西，有
programming language. So understand, and then for the third software here, so please write in full lah, Microsoft Excel.
天空
SQL. So what kind of SQL?
另外一个是
MySQL,
弄包那个里面，
MS SQL Server, database. So this one is too generic.
你到22就
Okay,
死了。
so you can use Tableau. So you can use
你是偷钱还是看奖杯？
Power BI and so on.
多没？
And also Google Analytics can.
上都是用这个去打起来。
这个多，
So this one is
好像蛮
incorrect.
烂呀，对不对？
Number 1, number 2, and number 4 is
对，
incorrect.
毕竟烂烂。
还好，这个
哦，你有用哦，是你有用飞，还有这个一个的。
你就用了，跟你，你就用这个没
Okay, and then for question number 2, so assuming that this is our data set, so let's say in this data set we have 4 companies, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lah. So I assume that technology is one of the company name lah. So Seagate, one company, technology one company, SSMC, another company, Russell Maxim, and also the Brothers is another company lah. So based on this record, so you need to identify how many variables are in your data set. So we have 3 variables. So the variables are variable company, sales per employee, and also the sales rank. Okay, and then you need to identify which one is the categorical and continuous. So yeah, company, categorical, and then for the continuous, it is sales per employee. So write in full, sales per employee, and then sales rank, not only write rank.
新的一个，因为如果用那个龙啊，我用那个可以换东西。
打不完了，这。
Okay, and then so assuming that so in record 2 for the technology, so we have missing values for the sales and also for the sales per employee and also sales rank. So you need to list down 3 techniques that you can handle the missing values in this part. Okay, input, delete or keep.
所以应该要给一个正确的。
no， 那个准备好。
Because the question doesn't want you to explain, so you can simply list down lah.
哇，
If you need to explain, then you need to extend your answer. Impute by using Y, delete if Y, keep if Y. Okay, and then for question D, so based on the answer provided in C, so you need to identify which method is the most effective. Why? So let's say if you're using input, means you want to replace with what?
有免费提速。
Mean values, replace with minimum values, replace with mode. So let's say if you want to replace the missing values, so in this case, the best answer, actually it depends on your logical reason. So let's say if you want to replace or impute it, so you can impute it by using average value of sales per employee. Impute or replace. So, or if you want to delete, so why you delete? So maybe because there is too many missing values, so you can delete it.
是它的应用，那个龙。
If you want to impute or if you want to replace it with mean values, then you need to justify. So why